Welcome to Echo 371, Study Session 3, Public Sector, Introduction. This session will introduce you to the concept of public sector. The public sector is called the government circle. An economy without a government is going to be in chaos. Though the classical economists believe that the market is capable of generating efficient signals for economic units. That is, there is an invincible hand that guides every economic unit. Although the invincible hand doctrine promotes economic growth, it still has its own economic problems. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Point out the type of public sector that exists in an economy. 2. Differentiate between public goods and private goods. 3. Explain the characteristics of public goods. 4. Present the conditions that must be met in order to achieve Pareto efficiency. Concept of public sector. Public sector refers to government and its activities. Here, our focus is the economic portion of a nation's affairs that is controlled by government agencies. In a capitalist economy, the main task of providing goods and services is assigned to the private sector, which is characterized by free competitive market and motivation of profit. The entrepreneurs are motivated by the profit, and in this arrangement, the government has only a limited role to play. A socialist economy, on the other hand, is characterized by government sector. Here, the means of production and distribution are controlled by the government and operated according to equity and fairness rather than market principles. The decisions of the government are expected to be guided not by commercial profitability but by the totality of objectives of maximizing social welfare, which depends upon the level of employment, production, economic growth, and so on. The basic instruments used in achieving these objectives are monetary and fiscal policy, debt management, pricing and regulatory policy. Market mechanism is assigned, if at all, a very marginal role. In between these two types of economic system, we have mixed economy, in which the means of production, distribution, and exchange are both privately and publicly owned. Here, both government and private sector are assigned a significant role. Some schools of thought support a fairly large presence of government intervention in the economic system on the ground of market failure of an unregulated market mechanism. To the socialists, the government has numerous beneficiary roles to play, including allocative, distributive, regulatory, and stabilizing ones. They argue that the patterns of resources allocation, production, distribution, demand, and consumption do not conform to the true needs and aspirations of the society. Hence, there is need for government intervention in the workings of the economic system. Forms of goods. 1. Public goods. These are goods and services whose consumption by one person does not reduce the quantity of the good available for another person to be consumed in the society, and no one can effectively exclude another from using the good. Many people can benefit from public goods and share consumption, and those who do not pay for these goods still get on to use them. Because of this, it is usually impossible to produce these goods in private market. A public good is also a good in which the principle of exclusion does not apply to it. Principles of exclusion means making the goods a price product, that is, those who cannot pay its market price are debarred from its use. This does not apply to public good. People are not debarred from using a public good as a result of their inability to pay its market price. Therefore, public goods are indivisible goods whose benefits cannot be priced and to which, therefore, the principle of exclusion does not apply. Private goods. These are goods and services whose consumption by one person will lead to the decrease in quantity available to another. The availability of private goods to users can be decided in a discriminatory manner. Such goods are subjected to the principle of exclusion by making it a priced product. Those who cannot pay its market price are debarred from its use. In this sense, it becomes divisible as far as its use is concerned. Therefore, pure private goods are completely divisible, and to them, the principle of exclusion applies in full measure. Only those who are willing and able to pay their market price can get the goods. Examples of these good is petrol. Mixed goods. These are goods or services that have the characteristics of both private and public goods. An example is television, which can be in a home and be watched by a single individual, that is private good, and also can be watched by another set of people, that's quasi-public good. In order to maximize profit, producers depend on consumers, and for consumers to maximize utility, they depend on producers. On producers, this interdependency is what is known as externality. Classification of goods in pure public goods. It is highly difficult to come across goods which fully satisfy all the characteristics of public good, or a good which fully satisfy pure private good. In general, most goods possess characteristics of both public and private goods. If the elements of publicness are predominant in the mixture of the characteristics of a good, such good may be referred to as a public good, and in the opposite case, termed private good. Merit goods. It is a good or service that should be provided by the government because of the social benefit that it provides to the individual and the entire economy. Provision of such goods help the economy in maintaining a high level of efficiency and contributes to achieving of basic objective of the society. Examples of merit goods are building of schools, hospitals, etc. By building more schools, this will enable more children to be able to read and write, which as a result will increase the standard of efficiency in the economy. Characteristics of public goods. 1. Non-rivalry. A public good can be used by one person without reducing the amount available for others to use. This is also known as joint consumption. An example is national defense. Once the country is protected against external aggression, every section will be protected. The benefit Mr. A derives from such protection will not reduce the benefit Mr. B derives. The opposite occurs in the consumption of private goods. When one person consumes a private good, other people cannot use the product. 2. Non-exclusion. People are not prevented from using a public good regardless of whether they have paid for it or not. Once a public good is provided in a society, every individual automatically benefits from the consumption, e.g., street light and defense. 3. Indivisibility and non-optimal pricing. Public good is one in which an optimal price cannot be charged for them because it is not divisible to the individuals. It cannot be broken into smaller units and charged. Number 4. Zero marginal cost of additional number. A public good has a characteristic of zero marginal cost. It means that an additional member of the society can be benefited by its use without appreciably adding to its total cost. A good example is a bridge over which an additional vehicle may pass without any additional cost to the society. However, note that most of these principle applies to some extent in reality. 5. Free rider. A public good is indivisible and the principle of exclusion does not apply. As a result, very few or even none may pay for it voluntarily, believing that through the contribution and effort of others, the supply of service will be maintained. Number 6. Decreasing average cost. A public good has a characteristic of decreasing average cost, but subject to the economy of scale. If the public good provided a small unit, then its average cost is likely to be much more. But if it is provided to serve a wide area, its average cost is likely to be reduced. Pareto optimality. Pareto optimality is a situation in which it is not possible to make someone better off without making someone worse off. According to Vilfredo Pareto, 1848 to 1923, any change that makes at least one individual better off and no one worse off is an improvement in social welfare. Conversely, a change that makes no one better off and at least one person worse off is a decrease in social welfare. Welfare changes, be it gained or losses, accruing to different people, occur due to action of producers and consumers. These economic changes lead to variation in income distribution and wealth distribution. Pareto optimality is one of the criteria used to evaluate the alternative economic situation of social well-being or welfare. It is concentrated on the economic efficiency aspect of welfare due to its subjective nature. That is, it is not possible to measure and compare welfare gains and losses between individuals or groups. Assumptions. 1. There are only two goods, roads and water supply. 2. There are only two factors of production, labor and capital, which are fixed in supply. 3. There are only two people, that is, John and Peter. 4. The economy is a barter economy without international trade. The two goods, two factors of production, two people are referred to as 2 by 2 by 2 model. Conditions of Pareto efficiency. The three conditions to achieve a Pareto efficient situation include: 1. Efficiency in production. Efficiency in production takes place if the produced combination of road and water supply is such that It is impossible to increase the construction of roads without decreasing the quantity of water supply. The isoquants of constructing road is measured from the origin labeled OR, while water supply isoquant is measured from origin labeled OW in figure 3.1. The locus of points of tangency of road and water isoquants is called Edgeworth contract curve of production. This curve is of particular importance because it includes the efficiency of labor and capital. Efficient production takes place on the Edgeworth contract curve. Any point of this curve is a possible point of production, but it is not efficient. For example, point P is not efficient, and all other points outside the contract curve. The points of tangency of isoquants shows the technical efficiency of production. That is, the marginal rate of technical substitution of capital for labor equals marginal productivity of labor over marginal productivity of capital, which is equal to W, that is wages over rent. Any point on the contract curve EFGHI is production efficiency because it is not possible to increase the construction of roads without reducing the supply of water. For point E, an increase in construction of roads has the effect of reducing the supply of water in the society. Once a point is attained on the contract curve, then it is impossible to increase the production of one good without reducing the production of the other. 2. Efficiency in distribution of goods among consumers. Distribution of goods, that is road and water supply, between the two consumers, that is John and Peter. It is possible to redistribute these goods in such a way that will have benefit to one individual without at the same time hurting another person within the society. 3. Efficiency in output mix. Having satisfied the Pareto optimality point in production and distribution, the economy will be producing at a point on each production possibility frontier, and the two goods, that is road and water supply, will be allocated to the two individuals, that is John and Peter, in an efficient manner. But if both Peter and John prefer road to water supply, the two consumers will be better off when they move along the production possibility curve that increase the consumption of roads through its construction. The point where it is not possible to move without making at least an individual worse off can be attained where the marginal rate of substitution of roads is equal to the marginal rate of substitution of transformation. Summary. In this study session, you learned that the type of economic system practiced in an economy will determine the extent the government will be involved in the economic affairs of the country. Government has a minimal role to play in a capitalist or free economy. Unlike a socialist economy, where government performs substantial role, in the mixed economy, both government and private individuals control economic activities within the economy. We also discussed Pareto optimality as a situation in which it is not possible to make someone better off without making someone worse off. And there are three conditions that must be satisfied in order to achieve Pareto optimality. These are efficiency in production, distribution, and in output mix. This is the end of study session 3. Thanks for listening.